In this video, we're going to be doing a complete review of the Fractal Design Meshify 2 RGB case along with the Fractal Design Meshify 2 RGB Lite case. We're going to be reviewing both, comparing and contrasting the differences. Then we're also going to be doing a complete build inside of the Meshify 2 RGB. So let's get started. Along the front of the box, we see Meshify 2 computer case. I almost wasn't sure if this was actually the RGB case that you'll notice right down here. Bottom up to 240, 280, RGB 240, and then RGB over here as well. And then RGB down here as well. So I was a little bit more at ease once I saw that, but looks pretty basic here. Goes over the specifications, shows you the case over here. Nothing along here. Well, nothing aside from Fractal. And then some of the feature specs and everything, and then the case blown up. I love when they do this. And then same thing over here, Fractal. So let's go ahead, open it up real quick. That wasn't bad. All right, and coming along the back real quick, solid back, which is perfectly fine. A window back here is kind of pointless. Not a horrible thing, but just still kind of pointless. And then one thing that I found when I opened up the Lite case is this is very cool, the way they open the side panel up. Okay, so instead of a screw or anything along here, which this side panel is not screwed on, you probably put your hand on here just in case. Then you push this out with your thumb, just push forward, and the side panel comes off. I think that's pretty awesome. So again, and that's it, it comes loose. Super simple, can even do it with one hand. Now, as usual, we can see the Fractal logo right over here. And then down here, we have about an inch of space between the bottom and the ceiling of the case. It's actually pretty high. Now, one thing you want to take notice of is there's not a whole lot of room when you put a radiator up at the top over here. The rear I/O and the top left-hand corner of the board are right at the very top. So anything you put right up here is going to hit the top of the motherboard. So if you're planning on using liquid cooling, it's probably going to be better served up at the front. So while you do see the fans over here and they kind of dip right into the case, this panel right over here is removable, so you can fit up to a 360 millimeter radiator right over here. So in order to remove this piece here, first off, we need to remove the filter down at the bottom. Then we put our hands between the metal portion of the case and the plastic front portion and just pull it out. Okay, we're going to go ahead and remove 3 screws. So one here, and one here. And then one final screw right over here. The sideways screw. And then we're also going to need to remove the hard drive cage. Now that one is a temporary removal. You can add that one back in. So you would just lay the case like this on its side and just go ahead, remove these 4 screws. All right. Now the cage is loose in there, and this panel can come out a little bit. You notice that I'm pushing from the inside. Okay, now we're going to feed our hand where that cage was and just pop it up. Didn't mean to shoot it so high, but we'll take this piece off and this piece off. And now we have full access to those fans and the bottom right over here. So we can remove these fans and add the radiator right over here. So in order to use those additional hard drive trays, aside from all the screws that we've removed over here and along the front and along the bottom, to remove this cage, we have to remove one more screw up here. This one right over here. The back of the drive tray is right over here. Now, removing this screw allows us to open up this side panel. Remember, after having removed already everything over here and even the little tray right down here, so we can totally remove the door if we wanted to, right there. That goes ahead and releases this door. And it's gonna feel like it's gonna break, just don't pull on it incredibly hard, and then it'll come out just like that. Now, from here, you would go ahead and unscrew this tray right over here. And then you're able to attach a hard drive right over here with these two screws. You can place it right at the very base of the case, up at the top of the case, or even still at the rear of the case, just screwing in the drive and then screwing this back in place. And then this is also interchangeable. If you don't want it to be back here, you can have it come up here at the very front. Mind you, you'd have to screw it in and place it in properly, but you can have it here. Personally, I don't like it here. I like to be able to see everything. So then you would have your own kind of hidden space back here. Personally, I prefer it right back here. So aside from using the 3.5-inch trays, we can also use the SSD trays. If we don't like the way that they look right over here, we can always remove them and then install them right here and right over here. So there's a hole right over here or over here, here as well. And then there's these two little inserts that you can utilize to slide these two right into. So you just slide that. That goes ahead and secures it right in place. So you don't need to screw in all the rest. You just screw in this very one at the top, and now you have your tray here. Mind you, of course, you would have an SSD and you would screw that SSD into the tray, but that's just another option for the SSDs. So between the Meshify 2 RGB Lite and the Meshify 2 RGB, there's about a $40 difference depending on the color and a few other factors, but the major differences between the two are, on the Meshify 2 RGB Lite, this back panel here is fixed. Whereas on the RGB, the back panel you can move up, causing another place right over here so you can insert more 3.5-inch drives. On the Meshify 2 RGB Lite, this back panel here is fixed, meaning like on the 2 RGB, you can move that panel up so that you can fit more drives in their tray right over here. On the Lite, it's static, you can't move it. You can install drives on the back or maybe on the bottom, but you cannot move the panel out. Not a big deal for a lot of people. I prefer it myself static like this or in this mode. I don't like it standing out, but that's a personal preference. On the Meshify 2 RGB, we have the Nexus Plus 2 fan hub that allows us to connect PWM and 3-pin fan headers, whereas on the 2 Lite, we're not given that opportunity. Then you'll notice over here on the Lite, while we do have the Velcro so that we can hold things in place, over here on the RGB 2, we have not only the Velcro, but we have these plastic containers to allow us to not only just grip all the cables here, but then we can split them out as well to make it look a little more organized. So you notice between the 2 RGB and the 2 RGB Lite, there are a few differences as well along the top. First off, being Type 2 RGB has a built-in Type-C adapter, USB Type-C, whereas this does not. It has an opening that you can buy a Type E adapter, but you have to buy that separately. Then you'll also notice along the top over here is a little bit thinner than over here. So over here is just the filter, and then you have access to the rest. While over here, you have to remove the entire top to be able to get to the removable filter and to the either fan or liquid cooling rails down here. Inside of the two RGB, as we mentioned before, there is the slots for two vertically mounted cards, single slot card or two for one double slot card. Then there is also a rubber grommet down over here. Now inside of the Lite, they chose to remove the rubber grommet from over here, and there is no access to a vertically mounted GPU. And then oddly enough, the rubber grommets right along here are actually doubly thick on the Lite than they are on the two RGB. So while I like both cases, I like the Meshify 2 RGB a little bit more because of the premium features. So what we're going to do next, I'm going to do a quick build, not like my usual builds, but a quick build. I'm also going to try something that I think can't work, but let's see if it can work. Anyway, let's get started. All right, so it came out a little bit better than I thought it would. Far from perfect, but better than I thought it would. The back definitely could use some work, but I tried to build it as quick as possible. No problem getting the side panel on. And definitely no problem getting the glass on. Let's connect her real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and turn around for the first time. I'm going to go ahead and pop in a thumb drive with Windows on it to install Windows on it. That way we can get the RGB lighting correct. I'm going to go ahead and just take off this side panel so that you could see it when it first turns on. She looks beautiful. All the RGB along the back, the top, the front, the card itself, and the RAM. But it looks beautiful. And then posts where just need to go into the BIOS. You can see it right over here. Just want to get in a little bit closer for you so you can see the video card. Memory up at the front. The fans up at the top for the liquid cooling unit. Fan at the rear. The case looks beautiful. And of course, if you build it looking nice, it'll look nice. Now the other side is a little ugly, but that's okay. Nobody's going to be looking at that. So let's install Windows real quick. So as you can see with Asus Aura Sync, we can get all the colors for the rear and front fans, the liquid cooling unit, the RAM, everything to sync, except of course the EVGA Geforce RTX 3080 Ti FTW3. For the Aura Sync lighting, we can do static, then change all the colors, breathing, strobing, color cycle, whatever RGB software you have, it can control all of it, including the case. And then of course we have to come over here to precision and do whatever effect we want. But regardless of that, I just wanted to show you all of the RGB lighting, not only from everything else but from the case fans themselves, part of the case. So stress testing for about half an hour inside of the Fractal Design Meshify 2 RGB case utilizing IDA64. Over here we can see I'm using the Core i9-12900KF processor stock, but as you know, she is a beast. The hottest temperature I've seen the CPU hit, well, now 83, it was 82 before, but you could see the temperatures are great for stressing 100%. We are using the Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 360 ARGB. I'm using right now, I believe, the turbo profile in the BIOS for the Asus Z690 D4 board. It's running great, but now let's see what we can do with the GPU. Are the temps going to go crazy on that? So as you can see, I've been stress testing my system, the GPU wise, on 3D Mark TimeSpy 4K for about 36 minutes, almost 37 minutes, and you can see the temperature now. Stress testing at 100%, 71 degrees. The 3080 Ti is a incredibly hot card, but the temperatures stay in nice and cool because of the temperature coming up at the front, coming through the back, and then of course along the back of the case exhausting, and the top of the case exhausting as well through the liquid cooling unit. So one very important thing is The temperature in my house is 66 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 18.8 degrees Celsius. Very important, you want to make sure the ambient temperature in the house or in your room or in your office to be as low as possible to keep your PC nice and cool. The temperature again in the house is 18.8 degrees or 18.9 degrees Celsius ambient temperature in this room. So along the front, we can see the temperature is around 19 degrees. The filter right up here, and all the cool air everywhere we go around here is between 20 degrees Celsius and 19 degrees. Well, I hit 21 for a second, 22 degrees. Okay, so between 18 and 22 degrees Celsius. So nice and cool air coming in. And then coming in along the back, we can see on the video card, it's about 32, 33 degrees, 38 degrees Celsius, 41 degrees Celsius. Keeping over here, I'm moving it around a little bit so I can try to find a hot spot. But you can see 38, we hit 41, I believe it was. Coming in through the fan up here, 35 degrees. Just seeing how hot the air is coming out from the top of the video card. But the video card, of course, as usual, there we go, 41 degrees is typically going to be the hottest. Down here, the power supply doesn't get very hot, is about 35 degrees. I hit 41 degrees. So still keeping everything nice and cool. So I've just removed the side panel, maybe now for about 2 minutes, and the GPU is about 51 degrees towards the bottom along the PCIe. It is 63 degrees, 66 degrees it came up to. Now mind you, with the side panel taken off, we don't have this concentrated air blowing through over here, over the video card, then out through the rear fan, and then also getting sucked up by the radiator up here, or by the fans on the radiator up here. The case does a great job helping to keep things cool. Mind you, I have the fans on PWM, so as they sense things getting hotter, they'll go ahead and ramp up to cool a little bit better. And of course with that, they are going to get a little bit loud. So since we did mention noise earlier, we're going to be testing it as well. So me talking, it's going to be in the 70s and 60s and 80s. All right, so upper 30s, upper 40s, you know, around there. So doesn't get very loud. Now mind you, this is right next to the PC. That's not where the sound is coming from. Most of the noise will be back here. So 48. Video card. Let's say 55. Power supply. Let's say 50 degrees. To me, this is where most of the volume is coming from, aside from my mouth. So pushing up right on it, it hit 58. 53. So still not incredibly loud. Definitely great. Sitting at the desktop now idle for about 10 minutes. I have some lights in the way, unfortunately. But we're in the mid to lower 30s. It sounds great. Let's go back to the rear. Still gets a little bit louder back here, but the fan's right here. Your ear or your face is not going to be right here. And the power supply. still pretty quiet. So the case is about 21 inches in length, and I'll go ahead and put millimeters down below. It is a very long case. As you can see, the Geforce RTX 3080 Ti FTW3 is a long card, and we have all this room up in the front. Have about 7 inches from the video card down to this metal piece right over here, so you can put a reservoir or whatever you'd like right up in here. Then of course you have that other panel that you can bring up to right over here instead of the back. I still prefer it in the back. Now that's alone in length. In height, it's about 18.5 inches tall. I'll put millimeters down below as well. And then in width over here, it's about 9.5 inches in width. It's not a bad size case at all. I really don't mind it being so long, being so big. It's not that incredibly tall, but it is pretty long. So between the light and the regular 2 RGB, I'd still recommend the 2 RGB much more than this one. It's a few dollars more, but you get so much more. Even though physically they look the same, they're the same height, width, and depth, but this offers the removable top panel, which, as you saw during the build, even though it was a quick build, I was actually able to slide this entire compartment out. The liquid cooling radiator, I was able to slide it out to connect cables I had forgotten to connect, then pop it back in when I was done. So that's an awesome feature. I thought that was an amazing feature. I was annoyed, but then I found that and I thought that was great. Now, the fact that you can actually add a vertically mounted video card back here, I think that's another great feature. I don't particularly like it too much, not on this case, just in general, but you can't do that on the Lite case, so that's another difference. They both have RGB fans. They both have 4 fans, the same fans, and they work great. Same dimension on the fans as well. As you saw, those fans kept everything nice and cool. I could have gotten a little bit more aggressive with the fans or even added different and higher CFM fans, but I didn't. I left it as it was, as you would buy it in the store today. They did a good job keeping everything, going back to the liquid cooling unit, keeping everything just perfect so that even with the taller memory, it may not be the tallest, but taller memory, I was able to fit in everything just perfect, even though I really thought I couldn't, like I said towards the beginning of the video. Now, for those of you that want to do custom liquid cooling, you can do that on both with that front panel over here. You can move that front panel, take off this panel. You can even do that on the Lite as well. You just can't move the panel. You're stuck with it as it is, but it's better for those of you that want to put that reservoir out in front, which it looks beautiful, so why not do that, right? Now, the other thing that I love about the 2 RGB is these fans up here. The controller, you're able to connect all the fans and everything directly to that so that you can use that over here for PWM fans and those for just straight fans without PWM. It's an awesome hub, a great addition. Now, it would be better if the fans both at the front and the back had longer cables, RGB included. That way, I had a little difficulty, even though it looks decent in the back, it doesn't look 100% pro because it was hard to get all those cables in perfect. Now, mind you, I rushed it, but if you take your time, you can make it look a lot nicer, but you may still run into the difficulty with the length of those cables. Power supply, you have plenty of room there. The cage is in the perfect spot. Now, because you have to move so many things when you want to pop that bottom panel out for the reservoir or for whatever you might want to do, you have to remove that cage, and it makes it a bit more of a pain in the butt. Just takes a little bit longer, but it's not horrible. It might take an extra minute or so. Screws here, screws up there, and then you could move stuff around. That's kind of a downfall. And then if anything, kind of a good thing here, because you just can't move it. You're stuck with it the way that it is. But you have some options. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you prefer the 2 RGB or the 2 Lite RGB? They're both nice cases. A few differences. I don't know if I would pay only slightly less to get slightly less. I might stay with the 2 RGB. I like it a lot. I'm really impressed by it. A few things I would change, but I've already mentioned those below. I'd love to get your feedback. Also, one thing I did different in this video, not only for time's sake, but maybe a few of you don't need it. Rather than doing the extremely long build that covers everything, I kind of just did a fast forward so that you guys can see everything I go through in the build without the discussion about it. So anyway, this is Iggy with ThisBytesForYou doing a review for the Fractal Design Meshify 2 RGB and the Fractal Design Meshify 2 Lite. Iggy with ThisBytesForYou out. See you guys.